When I was a little girl, there was a scary movie with a couple of teen girls at home alone in the house one night. They thought they'd have fun making prank calls, and then they started getting return calls from someone who was creepy and threatening them. They called the police to trace the call. And when the police called them back, they told the girls, get out, get out. The calls are coming from inside the house. Well, this entire show tonight is dedicated to the documentation, the receipts, the evidence that this entire operation is being run by the Department of Defense. There's no one I know better on the front line to break this down than Sasha Latypovą from Team Enigma. Now, when I told you that many more vaccines or bioweapon shots were coming, I wasn't kidding. What has been revealed from SEC filings and FOIA releases indicates that there are more than 100 contracts between the DoD and many companies. Pfizer and Moderna are really only frontmen. There are hundreds involved. The public health emergency that just got redeclared for the 11th time in the United States keeps pharma and the DoD in charge. Did you know that the PrEP Act actually helps to maintain the liability protection for these companies? These contracts are the most dangerous pieces in this bioterrorism attack on the American people and the world. Let's get started. Sasha Latypovą joins me now. Sasha, great to have you back on the Dr. Jane Ruby Show. You never cease to amaze me. These are all documents that are in the public domain, and yet you're the only person I know out of all the entities that really knows how to read them, that understands them, and organizes them so that we understand what's really happening. So thanks for being here again.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for inviting me.
You know, the analogy I used was that, of that scary movie, I can't remember the name of it, but we find out, we've always been suspicious. You've always had information that pointed to the DoD, the American military leadership doing this to its own people. And now the proof is in. So let you introduce some of this, and let's start with, this intro on the contracts.
Yes. So, it was actually all of it, everything that I'm mentioning here is completely publicly disclosed. It's all in public domain, starting from the press releases from Department of Defense describing how this is going to be done. And also, as you know, so the main source of information for today is collection of different contracts that we were able to obtain. Mm-hmm. And these are all public disclosures. So as you know, if a large company, a publicly traded company, has obligation to disclose material contracts, and these are extremely material because they're large. So Pfizer, for example, was awarded $10 billion from Department of Defense. They're obligated to disclose this and disclose the contract, although they're partially redacted. So they upload it to Securities and Exchange Commission, and you can get those contracts from there. Also, some of the contracts became available through FOIA. So to date, I am aware of something like 400 or so contracts. Some of them are duplicates, but hundreds of contracts with DoD and HHS and BARDA that cover everything: vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics, assays, kits, syringes, masks, all sorts of supplies, absolutely everything. And what I was, while I haven't read every single one of them yet, what I was surprised is that how many vaccine companies are there. It's not just Pfizer and Moderna. In fact, the majority of contracts are not with Pfizer and Moderna, although those of course exist too. But we see hundreds of other companies making vaccines, companies that we've never heard of. And that immediately started me, let me read those contracts. Let's see what's going on here.
You know what's interesting? You've just answered the question that one of the questions I've been asking for many, many months is, why is the rest of the pharma industry so quiet? Why are they not complaining and saying, hey, whoa, wait a minute. You let them get away with not doing all phases of research. They don't have to do any safety work. We're all back here They're all in on it. They're all part of it now. They're probably getting trickled down something. They're all, right, getting rewarded in some way.
Yes, either that or they're expecting to be. But I talk to my colleagues and I say the same thing. What are you guys thinking? If you're developing a kidney disease drug or device, even medical device, and Pfizer comes out and says, I have mRNA for kidney disease, and I only need to do 8 mice study and put it on the market right away. And you have to go through 20 years of development and $100 million in funding. What's going to happen?
Yeah. They must be saying, listen, just be quiet. We'll give you some other contracts later. You're right. I never thought of it in anticipation of being rewarded for it. And so you also say that what it appears is these, you call them subcontractors, or I guess subcontracting these little unknown pharma companies. They're not just out there in the periphery, like DOD and BARDA are directly managing them.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I found. So remember, this whole thing was advertised as a public-private partnership, which is okay. And, I think that's a normal legal structure to have a public-private partnership. But however, that means that a government can contract with the private manufacturer, let's say, and say, I need to buy trucks. And, I'll buy so many trucks, and maybe here are the specifications for the trucks, the outputs that I want, some parameters of performance, it needs to have this much range and this big and carry so much load, right? Yeah. So you give them order, and then they go and they design the truck, they make the truck, they manage their own subcontractors, they manage their systems, and the relationship is, I give you money, you give me trucks. This is not how this is set up at all. When I read the contracts, it's not that at all. It's a total takeover of the government, or specifically DOD, of the pharmaceutical industry, because so many companies are involved. There are dozens of companies.
Let me ask you a question. With this revelation, do you think it's fair to speculate or just say that the DOD has actually taken over the American pharmaceutical, machinery, and they're not complaining about it because they're getting billions of dollars? Because you've got here, each contract is, I guess, averaging from DOD to companies $2 to $10 billion per order. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so those are the large ones, Pfizer and Moderna. But then, of course, also we should remember that DOD, in addition, contracted with a whole bunch of their own contractors, which were historical, like Emergent Biosolutions we were talking about last time. And there's this company, Ology, or National Resilience, now changed the name. There are companies like Cydia, Snapdragon, companies you never heard of, or even, the ones that you heard of, Becton Dickinson, Smith Medical, McKesson. There's Texas A&M University system that also manufactures the active ingredient for the vaccines. I believe that's for the Novavax, because they have an insect-based cell line.
Right.
So
the moths.
And it's gigantic amount of money. So the reason I'm saying this is a takeover, because it's not what's called in contract law arm's length. Arm's length transaction is I give you money, you give me trucks. But they're not arm's length transactions. First of all, so you have to show the control. The control, first of all, is the amount of money. Let's say Pfizer gets $10 billion. That immediately dwarfs anything else Pfizer has. I mean, they have large products. They have big brands and products that sell for a lot of money, but $10 billion right away gets the whole attention of Pfizer, right? And also, they are the clauses in these contracts are extremely micromanaging, extremely. So
that's amazing.
So, for example, the most like big red flag for me was that the pharma company can no longer have an independent relationship with the FDA. And they are super sensitive about it, always historically. And now DOD says you cannot have any correspondence independently with FDA, only you copy us. and you run it by us before you talk to the FDA. And if you go to the meeting with the FDA, 4 people from BARDA have to be in that meeting.
Wow, they specify the number of people.
Yes.
I can't have a meeting with 3 BARDA people.
4.
So I was right a year ago that the FDA is gone. Essentially, right?
Essentially, yeah. Yeah. Also, these studies are designed by the government. So the protocols are designed by the government. The data comes to the government. They get all the data from these studies. They get all the manufacturing data also in a lot of detail. And then the whole set of meetings are being specified: weekly meetings, monthly meetings, and daily meetings with DoD representatives to update them on what's going on with this development process. So also a very, very important point, which people do not understand, DoD takes possession of these products. So the pharma ships to the DoD. They don't ship into the pharmaceutical distribution chain, which is regulated, licensed, has to follow good distribution practices and make sure that, all the products are traceable. No, none of that happens. The product gets shipped to DoD, and then DoD possesses it. DoD owns it until it gets injected into the person.
And let me back up for a little clarification. Is it every pharmaceutical product right now, or is it like sort of everything they want regarding infectious disease, or is it
right now? Yeah, right now it's everything. Seems like, according to these contracts, at least, it's everything related to COVID. Okay. Vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, therapeutics, everything that's related to COVID.
What about the pills like Molnupiravir from Merck and Paxlovid from Pfizer? Are those funneled through the DoD or under their control?
I will have to check on that.
Okay.
I'll get back to you on that. I can't confirm.
Probably
right now.
not if you don't remember reading it, because it wasn't part of that. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't jump out at me as that, but monoclonal antibodies definitely. So everything in this biological manufacturing part is definitely there.
I mean, just those pieces alone, right? Mm-hmm. All the COVID related treatments go through the DoD. So when I get calls from, let's just say, military people in different bases around the world that say, Dr. Jane, these shipments are coming in of these vials, and it says they're all coming from Fort Detrick. Didn't know that Fort Detrick was a hub for American pharmaceutical distribution.
Yeah, normally it would come either directly from pharma company or through pharmaceutical, more likely, more common, from the pharmaceutical distributors, licensed pharmacy distributors that supply pharmacies and hospital pharmacies and local pharmacies for various products. And so, but they're licensed, regulated, they have to follow rules, they have to have products serialized, these are not serialized. Right. And so,
when do you think it started? Was it always? Was the DoD always running this operation?
Yes, from day one, from start. These are contracts that originated, COVID related. They originated sometime in February, March, April of 2020. But there are also contracts preceding it. So, for example, Emergent Biosolutions, which we've discussed before, it's a known, long-standing DoD supplier for anthrax vaccine. They're exclusive manufacturer of anthrax vaccine. And remember, we discussed how they're awful and not compliant with good manufacturing practices. And there's a Form 483 from FDA with huge findings that were just bad, how they were not following any rules. Well, that's DoD's long-standing supplier, and the contract with them exists from 2012. So
okay, so it predates. Wow, that really predates it.
Really predates it. And it's sad that the contract was, so the contract from 2012 ran into 2037. And so they established it in 2012 they called it at that time pan-influenza vaccine manufacturing and surge capacity. So they invested upfront into huge manufacturing capacity for what they called influenza vaccine at the time. And then they switched it in 2020. They said, now we're executing this option with surge capacity and so forth. And now you're in charge of making the COVID vaccine. And by the way, Emergent was making COVID vaccine for AstraZeneca and Janssen, we know for sure.
Yeah.
But they're probably supplying now to others as well.
Yeah. We talked about how the BARDA as an extension or part of the military and of the DoD, is really, running this show. Are you aware of NIH Active, ACTIV?
Yes. And what's interesting also, it's not the sort of the first incarnation of this thing. It's because they seem to come up with different acronyms all the time, and then they will have the same sort of, so the contracts that I'm reading refer to ATI, Advanced Technologies International, as a manager of this consortium, this DoD established consortium of biomanufacturing. And I think Active is yet another some sort of
and for the audience, because I kind of just slipped it in there. I know you know it. You're so well read and so aware of the government's actions, or what used to be the government. Active is a subgroup within NIH that stands for Accelerating COVID-19 Therapies and Vaccines. And there are a lot of frontline doctors involved in this thing, but it's a public-private partnership. It's all of the federal agencies, CDC, all that other, the usual players and suspects, the big pharma, BARDA, DoD, a lot of other, it's just unbelievable. And their mission is to continue this bioterrorism effort. I mean, it's absurd on its face. Right?
Yeah, so they set up one group to do this, then they run down the funding, then they set up another group, and we're talking billions in funding. So so this Active now is again they're saying public-private partnership. That should be keyword for we took over this industry and we're continuing the bioterrorism and we follow no rules and there's no regulation that applies to us.
It's just unbelievable. I don't even know how we can control something like this Active in NIH. I mean, they're literally bleeding our country dry of all of our resources. They're bleeding out the middle class. But anyway, I know I'm speaking to the choir. I want to get back to these contracts, Sasha. In the contracts, you mentioned that there are restrictions. Again, back to the question we've asked for months. Well, why aren't they testing the vials? And why aren't they doing quality control? We did a special session with you on quality control and good manufacturing processes, which are standards, and how it's just out the window. And we're all scratching our heads. Well, you've discovered the reason behind why they're not allowed to do safety and clean, manufacturing plant testing, the FDA or anybody else of these companies. So tell us what you know about that from these documents.
Yeah. So just important to understand for people, while it's extensive set of laws and regulations, the good manufacturing practices, it's huge, and covers, hundreds of different regulations. However, the main point of them is that as a manufacturer, you have to, when you put something on the label, you say, it has these ingredients in these quantities. You have to demonstrate that your product, as it is dispensed to the patient, actually conforms to that specification. And that's, very reasonable.
It's standard.
Yes. You want to know if it's, water and orange juice, or maybe it's water and rat poison. That would be bad, right? That's what good manufacturing practices are about. So and you have to do it all the way through. So if you dispense a dose of a medicine to somebody, then it has to have a barcode. That barcode, through the pharmaceutical distribution chain and licensed distributors, they can trace it back to the manufacturer, to the subcontractor, to specific lines.
There's none of that.
The manufacturing, subcontractors, specific lines that they use, all the way to raw materials, specific lines that those produce. And that's how we assure safety of the product in the pharmaceutical chain. None of this applies to these products. I assure you, 100% nothing applies to this product. First of all, these products are, because they're shipped to DoD and not licensed distributors, they're not what's called serialized. So there is no barcode that applies to the single unit dose. Remember, they're shipped in multi-dose containers, but even those are, the doses are made by hand by, unlicensed people, random people, medical students, whoever, fire department. So they're made by completely untrained people, and that's just a complete violation. And then there is no tracing back. And there is no tracing back also because it goes through the black box of the DOD. It comes from Fort Detrick, So we can never, and that's how the contracts are designed. And then also there's a specific, so for the U.S. Specifically, there's a PrEP clause, like PrEP Act clause in all of these contracts that says that the manufacturer is not liable for anything. There's no, they're completely indemnified. They're the covered person for the purposes of this contract, so they have no liability whatsoever. Also, last line of that PrEP clause says that this product has civilian and military applications.
Which covers them for everything.
But also says that it's a weapon. And so that answers your question. And it's federal property. Okay, so this product is both a weapon and a federal property. Just like you are not allowed to go test a fighter jet because it's a federal property and a weapon.
Good example.
You go test these products. Yeah. So there is no, and that's how, I've heard some people who try to get these vials to test independently in the lab, and they were threatened. They were threatened with, this is going to be a theft of federal property. However, I consulted with attorney and at least my advice that was given to me is because if you're doing it as a whistleblower to uncover corruption and fraud, then there's legal coverage for that for doing this, so you can be protected. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice.
Right.
This is just what I was.
Is this something new? Is this something new? This, making this a federal property, because you're saying it's always been in the contracts?
It's always been in the contract. It's always been like this.
Oh my God.
From the very beginning, this is how these contracts are set up. The government orders it, the government buys it, owns it, distributes it, injects it into the people. Therefore, federal government owns them.
By putting everything under the military, this is what gives them the power and the coverage and the block. But you're right. That line is, quote, you said the clause for liability removal under the PrEP Act specifies these products as, quote, both civilian and military application. Civilian application. That you're right. That means it's a weapon against the people.
Yeah. So that's my conclusion, especially because we know how toxically they design. So there is no doubt anymore that these products, in fact, and I said they're not conforming to the label, but in fact, we know that when they're conforming to the label more, they're more deadly. So we've shown it in multiple analyses, and that's the conclusion that everyone has reached. That they've been designed to be very, very dangerous. So because it's a non-conforming product, completely non-conforming, there's a huge variation. So some of it is very deadly, and a lot of it is not as much and may have some toxicity, may injure a person, but probably is not going to kill them.
Okay, then here's my next question. Bivalent mRNA shots. Next year, Stefan Bancel from Moderna just said publicly in an interview, we're going to have a universal flu shot with up to 10 mRNAs. So did they figure out that they can get a better kill rate by upping the amount of mRNA that's delivering this toxic spike protein direction to the body?
Yeah, I think whatever they say about they probably are upping the toxicity of it, but they can't make them at large scale because of this sloppiness and how they're making them. So it will be, in my opinion, it will be a similar situation. Some of it will be very toxic, and some of it not so much. By the way, we already got about 100 adverse events report in bears for these bivalent. So they just came on the market essentially, I don't know, a week ago, a couple weeks ago.
Thank you for breaking that news. Yeah, I think I did see something to that effect. And it's not surprising. They were rolled out on Labor Day around September 6th or 7th. But I want to get back to the sloppiness for a minute. The sloppiness, you said poorly made, not conforming, just a mess in these manufacturing plants. If I was the DOD and I was a psychopath or whatever they're doing, and I was an evil person or entity, wouldn't I want a better efficiency at killing people? Or are they kind of allowing it? I mean, I know you're not getting into the mind of people you don't even know, but from all these documents, you can kind of tie some pieces together. Do they want to pace it out? And now they're going to rev it up with multivalent and bivalent?
I think so. I think they wanted to pace it out. So they wanted to get it in they wanted 100% of the people to comply and get injected. But obviously, if you start killing, everybody right away, you're going to have a lot of resistance. So, and these people, they studied it, they modeled it, there were big papers and research projects written about, how to overcome vaccine hesitancy, how to get 100% vaccination rates. So
that's true.
That's obviously part of it. So if you see obvious adverse events and deaths associated with vaccines, then you become very concerned, and that grows resistance. So they wanted something that's at barely detectable level, so they can still gaslight everybody and they can call us conspiracists and misinformation spreaders. But they will be like, oh, no. By the way, today I went to the hospital and they are advertising sudden adult deaths everywhere. There are these brochures stuck on the wall from CDC advertising young people dying as if it's normal. Is that awareness of sudden death?
Yeah. Is that, do you think, to keep the public at a certain level of non-panic?
Exactly. It's to perpetuate. So those people who got deceived, and don't want to admit that they got deceived. Well, this helps them. This is a talking point for them to continue with that deception, to continue not acknowledging what's happening, right? So that's how they're doing it. And so that's why they're like, okay, we need to keep it at this level so that, so many people die per year, like 10% or so, which we see in excess mortality.
Sasha,
and we are going to increase.
Why do you think people that got the jab that are getting sick, they develop a new autoimmune, they found they have a cancer in their lung, but they're still telling their family and friends it's not connected? Is there something, do you think, in these shots that's changing people's mental ability to make connections? Is it destroying the frontal cortex? I don't know, executive function? Yeah.
This is a speculation, but I'm suspecting something like that. I'm suspecting that, and that may be as simple as, if you're sick, your ability to reason and think is impaired.
Yeah.
Regardless of how sick, if you're in pain, you have brain fog, or you have something else, you're not thinking straight. And so they're working into that mentality. And so that's how it is.
Sasha, we have a couple of minutes left, but I want to get into this, and then we'll really cover it in the last segment of the show. You have kind of a bombshell revelation here that you have documentation proving that contracts show that Pfizer and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are co-investors in BioNTech. I mean, I don't know. To me, that seems shocking. You want to talk about arm's length and conflict of interest. Give me a minute on that before we have to, jump, to the next segment.
Yeah. And for this one, I have a chart and you can include it in this.
Yeah.
First of all, Pfizer and BioNTech structured their research collaboration agreement in 2018. And again, this was the first, Pfizer had an R&D agreement and they invested into BioNTech in 2018, equity investment. And that was about, again, pan-influenza vaccine. And then later on in 2019, BioNTech got investment from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for $55 million, also equity. Wow. And that's not the only one. They got more money for other applications like HIV. And then later on, Fosun Pharmaceuticals, also Chinese CCP-controlled company, invested $55 million
in BioNTech?
Into BioNTech.
Okay. What is the relationship, do you think, from these documents of the CCP and our own DOD?
Well, so I found several publicly available contracts from Securities and Exchange Commission that show me that this relationship seems to be very cozy. I was frankly shocked when I saw that DoD gave billions of dollars in contracts to the venture that is in part controlled by the CCP. So, and let me explain. So everybody's aware of BioNTech Pfizer partnership. What is less advertised is that this is at least 4 major players partnership. It's BioNTech, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Pfizer, Fosun Pharmaceuticals, and all of them received billions, in excess of $10 billion right away from starting from May 2020 from the Department of Defense. And this is not just sort of technology or manufacturing arrangement. These are equity investments. So when this venture is created and equity investments are made, these parties are now co-owners of this venture.
Wow. It's stunning. If this is what you've uncovered, which it appears to be, and it's huge and it's nefarious and it's our own military industrial complex taking us out, then looking at something like Trump coming back or, doing something about it, it's no disrespect to him, whatever, but I don't want to get into whether he's in on it or who knows, who cares? He's so minuscule when it comes to this operation. The Secretary of Defense is minuscule. You can clearly see Biden is a demented sock puppet. And now I think I understand why Congress they're either, I don't know. I mean, they must be very well taken care of. Because otherwise, why would they watch their own country go down? Mm-hmm. It just explains everything, doesn't it?
It does explain a lot of things, and it explains how, everyone doesn't want to investigate where the virus came from, and doesn't want to investigate any of these relationships. And it's very interesting that even Fox News cannot use public databases to find this information. It's right there. I mean, I don't have a research department. I just have access to the internet, and you go on sec.gov and all these contracts are right there. Well,
what a lot of people are eventually going to figure out, the stragglers that still watch Fox News Arena, and I don't mean to pick on them but for the longest time, they enjoyed this moniker of being, the only conservative outlet. They've never been conservative. They've been run by the Murdochs and the Murdoch boys. And then now, every commercial is brought to you by Pfizer. So, Fox is in the hole, and I'm not sure I understand how some of their really conservative people on the air stay there. I mean, I hope it's worth your 7 or 8 figure contracts to help sell out your country, and to work for, I could never say this segment is brought to you by Pfizer. I don't even think I could get it out. I'd probably choke, before I could get it out. And so I'm concerned. So this Fosun, is this Fosun Pharmaceuticals commensurate with, say, the Pfizer of China, like the biggest,
It's much bigger than the Pfizer of China. It's bigger than Pfizer. So Fosun Pharmaceuticals is it's a pharmaceutical company, but it's part of a conglomerate. So there is a holding company, Fosun Holdings, and it owns hundreds of companies. And these are giant brands all over the world, Europe, US, everywhere. Again, they have a Wikipedia page. You can go and see it all right there. Yeah. It's not difficult. And I invite you viewers, go look up Fosun Pharmaceuticals, Fosun Holdings, and you will see that they own hundreds of companies, and most of the time, they're majority shareholder in these hundreds of companies, brands that you recognize, huge brands. They own half the world. And this company invested into BioNTech, Pfizer, Bill and Melinda Gates venture. And in fact, all these investments happened very quickly. For example, Bill and Melinda Gates invested $55 million in August 19th, just 6 months before global pandemic. Global pandemic gets announced on March 11th. Fosun invests 4 days later on March 16th. And Pfizer ups the investment that they already made in 2018 a day later on March 17th, and they invest another $113 million into this. And then in 2 months or 3 months, they get a $10 billion contract from the Department of Defense. So why is this not discussed anywhere? How is this even possible that Department of Defense gives them this contract knowing that Fosun Pharma is a shareholder, major shareholder? And also, I would like people to go on Fosun Pharma Holdings Wikipedia page, look up their chairman, whose name is Guo Guangchang. And this person is a high-ranking member of CCP.
Well, we did learn, and it might have been through you last year, that the majority of board members on Pfizer were CCP members. So we assumed that the company had been taken over by the CCP, but maybe not directly, maybe in this relationship between the DoD and the CCP. Like I said, Pfizer is part of the infrastructure for this bioterrorism attack. What is their end game? Is it really to wipe us all out? If you talk to Attorney Todd Callender, we're going to talk to him later this week. We're going to turn us into cyborgs, and those of us who resist are just going to be taken out one way or the other. And I feel like I'm in the middle of a Terminator 3 movie, and I'm not being, cute about that. I mean, it's really concerning. This is so large. What are your ideas about how we can overcome this and survive?
Right. Yeah. So as far as their ultimate goal, I think people should look at what is going on in China right now and how they're terrorizing their own population.
Oh my God.
Just anybody who has questions about, our government is never going to do bad things to us. Well, China is running the practice runs for them and practice scripts, how to best terrorize their population, how to force them into daily COVID testing, how to force them into quarantine camps that they're building. And, so that's their ultimate goal. They want to wipe out a lot of people, make them sick. As I said, when somebody is sick, they can't think straight, they can't resist much, they are vulnerable. And so that's an easy person to control. And then the ones like us who are resisting, they are just figuring out what's the best mechanism. And China is running those scenarios for them right now as we speak.
What are they doing? Yeah, what are they doing with the people that are out in the streets protesting, the ones that have said, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm not testing or taking shots? How are they managing them? Let's get some insight into what's coming.
Well, they're brutal. They have police and army that go after their own citizens. They brutalize them. They put them in these, you've seen the videos of these humongous, this is concentration camps. They're calling them quarantine, but it's a concentration camp. And that's what they're planning to do. And they're planning to control the population that way. They need to install, as you know, the global one world government. And there are too many people, especially in the US, who are freedom-minded. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to suppress us, scare us, and make us sick and make us controlled. Now, and also the whole conversation about the digital ID to track everyone, that's another big program that BARDA has invested heavily into, like all these tracking technologies. And once they scare you, then you comply. And that's how they get there. Okay. So they will say, we can install a chip in your brain and remote control you. And then everybody gets scared and gets vaccinated and gets this stupid CDC paper card. They controlled you by the paper card, not by the chip.
Good point. And good point. Yep. And it's
why. Exactly.
I'm worried about, I'm worried about this thing about keeping people in their homes, and look at how easily people did it in 2020. And that's a mini version, right, of what we're seeing in China. These people screaming in these high rises, they can't get out. You have the choice of, you don't feed your child tonight, or you take that swab up your nose. You're going to take that swab up your nose. What we're saying is, don't let it get to that point.
Exactly.
Where
you have to stand up. You have to wake up your friends and neighbors, and you have to recognize what's been done. stop pretending that, we're just going on now, everything is fine, we're going back to normal, we're going on vacations. No, we're not going back to normal. Look at what's going on. They're trying to corral you into this situation, which is what the Chinese population is experiencing right now. And we have to resist, and we have to outlast them. And we will win. Yeah.
I wanted to come back just for a minute or two to the work of Catherine Watt, who I know you're well aware of. I think you were the one who, alerted me to her months ago. She's a paralegal, I think she's brilliant, but kind of a quiet person. She started to put together this legal research that actually shows how they have down through the years. And like you said, many Congresses and many presidents and, many agencies have worked over the years to create laws that make what is normally illegal legal right now on paper. So what are your thoughts on, Catherine's work? She lays out how this has all happened.
I definitely advise everyone to read her Substack. It's called Bailiwick, and especially read American Bioterrorism Post. It's a really in-depth research, goes through the years, through all acts of Congress and laws that they were changed. So yes, they made it legal on paper, but I was also told recently by a wonderful attorney that you cannot contract for a crime. And so this is what we have to all keep in mind, because what they're doing is a crime. They're killing people. They're doing it intentionally. It's very, easily shown in all these documents and data and everything that's come out. They're committing a crime, and there's no such thing as a legal crime. It doesn't exist. So we need to find, and yes, I applaud, at the local level, at the state level, there are powers that we can, access, and all we need is one fair judge and one honest prosecutor in this entire country. I think we can find them.
Because there's no shortage of evidence. I will agree with you. Once you get that first prosecution and conviction, how do you think it will go from there? I know you're not a legal, expert, and neither am I, but, or how do you think that's going to play out? Yeah,
it's hard to tell. It's not my area of expertise. Yeah, I think the more judges that can get on board with this, the more prosecutors, the more we can, we will have to fight this back, village to village, town to town, building to building. It's going to be that type of warfare, but we have to do it because they've destroyed this country. They already have. They destroyed all the industries that are related. Banking, finance, entrepreneurship, honest product development, honest innovation, honest science. Science is completely destroyed, So it's done. They've destroyed it. So now we have to fight back, and we have to recover the territory, and then we have to rebuild.
And something, I think it's going to take several generations, Sasha, but at least, people like you are laying the foundation. So I want to thank you for, your work is patriotic. It's to save the country, because if people don't understand this, they're not going to be moved to act. So I want to thank you so much for your generosity and your time and spending it with us today and taking us through these documents. It's really, really important. And I'm going to try to get this out over and over again. And if those of you in the audience, please share this information so that people learn over and over again. And I'm very grateful to you, Sasha, for the work you do and for your willingness to come forward and talk about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. I really love this country. I think it's the best country on earth, honestly. And I hate to see what's been done to it.
I do too. Thank you. Thank you for that.
这个是正常人的骄傲，完了终于2万人，所有人都在叫，要命了！就刚刚5分钟前头，俺叫完没几个了，现在突然之间，所有人都叫了，要死！ 要命了！再这样弄下去，我跟侬讲，真的要出事体了，操，麻烦了。根治啥么呢？因为所有的人，伊都不晓得这个状态到底维持到啥个辰光。侬总要拨个标准，或者是讲有一个具体的说法。没，侬讲看，闷了7天，当然屋里向啊，不能出门啊，不是说不能出小区啊，这不行的，马上弄下就要出事情。